Hello everybody, my name is Emma. I'm one of the students here at Woven. So today's passage is Mark 14:12 to 42. So this starts with the Last Supper where Jesus and the disciples share bread and wine together, and Jesus tells them that one of them will betray him. This then leads to Jesus predicting that Peter will deny him. Peter says that he will never fall away from Jesus even if everyone else does. And Jesus says to him that he will deny knowing him 3 times before the cock crows twice. And then the last section of this passage is Gethsemane, which is what I'm going to be focusing on today. So I'm just going to read that for us and then share a few thoughts. So I'm starting reading from verse 32 and reading until 42. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed that, if possible, the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Simon," he said to Peter, "are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the 3rd time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough. The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." So I think from this passage, the first thing that really stood out to me was that this isn't the Jesus that we usually see. So usually Jesus is the peace giver in situations. He brings comfort, he brings wisdom, and he feels very stable and like he really knows what's going on. But here he is distressed, he's troubled, he's overwhelmed, he's worried. I think we really see his fear here about what is to come. And then what he does is he leaves the people that he is with and he goes and he spends time with God. He's really honest with God and he prays. He doesn't hide anything there. He doesn't pretend that he's okay with the situation when he's not. He says to God that everything is possible for him, but he wants this situation to be taken from him. So he's clearly showing that he's worried, that he's fearful, but yet almost immediately he shows that he still trusts God. He says, "Yet not what I will, but what you will." So even though he's worried, he knows that God's will is better. And then towards the end of this passage, we see that God's will does happen. So even though Jesus asked for it to be taken away, that isn't what's happened. So the betrayer comes, which obviously we know that is Judas. And I think it's really interesting here that even though Jesus was clearly scared, he doesn't run away, he doesn't flee, he just accepts the Father's will. He accepts what is happening here. So I think for us, this can really challenge us to rely on God, especially in situations like we find ourselves in now. Here we see that Jesus tries to rely on the disciples. He asks them to stay and pray, but they fail to do this. They fall asleep. Their spirit is willing, but their flesh is weak. But this isn't what happens with God. God is reliable. God is there for Jesus, and Jesus can be honest with him. So I think from Gethsemane we can learn the perfect way to pray. It's to go to God and be honest, to not hide anything, to ask him for what we need, but also to accept that his will is better, and really trust in him with that. I think this also shows us that prayer can bring great comfort. It clearly does to Jesus here. After this point in Mark, we just see him basically accept what is coming. He doesn't challenge it, but he knows what he needs to do. So I think my challenge for us from this passage is to think about what it is that you are relying on. Maybe it is with what's going on now or other situations in your life. Are you relying on God, or are you relying on other people or other things, other parts of society, when actually here we see that the only thing or the only person that never lets us down is God? I also want to challenge you about whether you are being honest with God. Are you letting him into every part of your life and really showing that to him? So I want to encourage you to have this honesty with God and just really tell him how you're feeling and allow him to bring comfort into your life. So I'm just going to pray to end. Yeah, dear Lord, I thank you for this passage and what we have learned about you through it. Thank you that you are someone that we can rely on. I pray that you just help us to really feel your peace and your comfort through this time, and allow us to be honest with you as well, Lord. Thank you, God. Amen.